If you set out to accomplish a really big goal, if you keep watching, I'm going to show you a technique that I just learned this past week to help you through the process. Okay, here we go. Episode 2. And just for the record, I still don't know what I'm doing. Alright, so maybe you caught my first episode where I talked about how I'm giving myself 12 months to record a comedy album, which I think is a pretty big goal to set if you actually look about it, because I'm going to be here in Los Angeles and I want to do it in my hometown. Now, you're probably thinking that 12 months is a really long time, but I'm trying to be as realistic as possible, and I'm a little scared given all my other responsibilities. So I wanted to give myself enough time, which is always important when you're setting a goal. You have to set a deadline, that way you're working towards something. So I was talking to a friend of mine about this project, and he was a little surprised that I haven't already recorded a comedy album, because I have the material and I've been doing this long enough, for almost on and off for about 15 years. But I honestly thought that comedy albums were reserved to the professional comedians, Brian Regan, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, who are now having all those specials on Netflix. And for touring comics, because you needed something to sell to help pay for the tour, and I wasn't a touring comic. I've done comedy in Toronto, Vancouver, Los Angeles, even in Tel Aviv, but I wasn't traveling around trying to sell swag so I could pay my way for the tour. I never really felt the need to do a comedy album, but also, and I think this is more of an internal thing, I never felt that I was ready, and I know there's a lot of comics that released comedy albums before they were ready, and years later, they sort of cringe after listening to the stuff that they put out there. Now, to be honest with you, I think that everything that you do, whether good or bad, you can learn from your mistakes, and those people that had released an album 10 years ago and they weren't ready had released a second, third, or fourth album, and I know that they've improved since, but it was something that really stuck with me. The reason I decided to do it now is I was inspired by a Canadian comedian named Steeves, who I guess I lost track of time, but maybe 2-3 years ago, released his first comedy album. And I've been watching his comedy, and I got to share the stage with him a few times at the Laugh Resort, an old comedy club in Toronto. And because he released his comedy album a few years ago, and he'd been doing comedy for 30 plus years probably. He's a writer on a television show, and he decided to do it. And if you think about it, with all the possibilities of distribution, there's now Spotify and Pandora, and there's iTunes, and then there's SiriusXM, and there's ways to track it and get paid for that. I think it's an awesome time, especially if you utilize Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and you have your fan base, you can make a little bit of money. Now, money isn't the thing that's motivating me. If you were listening to my last video, which is actually my first video, I was motivated to do this since becoming a father, and I want to do this for my son, but I really have to say that this is for me. I really have to put in the work to get it done. So at the top of the video, I mentioned that I stumbled on this article, and I happened across a Fast Company article on March 16th that talked about goal setting, and I realized that ultimately that this is what this channel is all about, okay? So I wanted to share with you what I read, and I'll post the article in the description below. Okay, what this article talked about was a really simple technique that, well, have you ever heard of the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail? So when you're setting a really big goal, you have to break it down into smaller chunks so that you can feel the satisfaction of actually being successful. Because if you set a huge goal and then just sort of like meander throughout the 12 months that you give yourself, then you realize that you're not satisfying that need for you to feel sort of successful along the way. So what this author was talking about was really cool, is that you set this awesomely huge goal. Because I'm doing it for 12 months, he says set your yearly goal, okay? Now whether it's to lose weight or to learn a new skill or to do a comedy album, you write that down. So on top, that my yearly goal is to record a comedy album. Now, then you break up that yearly goal into 12 mini goals, okay, for each month, and you set what you can accomplish in that month that will help you feel successful to that yearly goal. When you've set that monthly goal, then you break it down into weekly goals, and then, as you know, daily goals to accomplish the weekly goals to help you accomplish the monthly goals, and the monthly goals to help you ultimately reach that year goal. It sounds easy, but what he does add in the article is that this is a lot of work, but you have to be able to give yourself time. Something that I really sometimes don't have, because I actually have to finish this video in the next couple of minutes before my wife and son get back from their walk. Now, I've had a really busy week, okay? On Monday, I went out to a comedy show. I got to see some comedy at the Virgil Bar. It is hosted by Kristen Shaw from Last Man on Earth. She just had a baby like a couple of weeks before and then goes out and still hosts the show. Mind you, she opened up the show and then left because she obviously has to feed the baby. If you've ever had a baby, they prefer breast milk. I get it. They want it from the source. But the co-host, Kurt Braunauer, he was on The Big Sick. He was the roommate. He's super funny, and it was such a great show, and it was really good to get out. Now, on Tuesday, I decided to have a root canal, and I have to go back next week to get a second root canal operation or procedure, and then go to my dentist to get a crown. So that took up Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, it was my wife's birthday, so I had to celebrate with her. And then on Thursday, my wife was working 24 hours, so when I got home, I'm on full-on dad duty till my son goes down to sleep. I wanted to do some comedy after that, and this is embarrassing, but I ended up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow because it was free on Amazon. I don't think I can link to the Teenage Mutant Amazon Prime thing here, but you get the idea. Anyway, Friday I got home just in time to make dinner to find out that the meat we got in that sort of like prepackaged food, I don't want to name the company, was rotten. And maybe that was our bad, I'm not really sure, but we had to like improvise dinner, and then we were exhausted by the time that was all done. And then on Saturday, it was my wife and I's 3rd year anniversary, so we went out and celebrated with our baby, and we had a great time. And then on Sunday, I was just out with my in-laws and my wife and my child, and we were picking fruits and vegetables on this farm, and there was like a whole day thing, and I just got home, and they just went for a walk, and I literally have like 2 minutes to finish this, so here we go. We have our yearly ultimate goal of recording a comedy album. Now, this article talks about pick something. That's it. Just pick something that you want to do in a year. If it's lose 20 pounds, write lose 20 pounds at the top. And then if you want to record a comedy album like me, you write comedy album on that piece of paper. Then underneath, you figure out what sort of monthly things that you can do to accomplish so that you can feel successful. Now, a monthly goal for me, let's just say the first month, is to research a venue in Toronto that I can do the comedy show. Let's say the 6th-month goal would be to research video production companies to help you record the actual album. Maybe on the 10th month, what you want to do is research PR and marketing. Outside of your friends and family, you just want to get a little press, maybe get on the radio to promote your show and like while you're doing it. Then what you would do is with that, you would take that information and translate it into a weekly thing, and then each week you would try to accomplish little daily goals to help you meet your weekly goals and then monthly goals for that ultimate goal. The article suggests that you sit down on the weekend, so on Saturday, about 20 or 30 minutes to help you map out your goals. Remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, so spend that time mapping out. Spend about 10 minutes making your weekly goals, because you want to be able to do the big thinking for about 20 or 30 minutes and then breaking it down throughout the week so you can accomplish it. But that, he said, was very essential, and it takes sort of a mammoth size project and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. I'm gonna keep reading that article. I'm gonna sit down later tonight to write my goals. This has been a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot, and I'm really excited for the upcoming 12 months. So thanks for tuning in, and like I said in my first video, I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you're along this